Hey, so I have almost made it through my first middle school year with my oldest son. Sixth grade is almost over. We are wrapping up. This year went, I feel, much smoother than last year. Last year was our first year homeschooling, and he had a big learning curve. This year, he has just done much better, and I think part of it that's helped is a lot of his subjects have been more independent. I've let him have more freedom in choosing the order that he is doing things, and I think that helps him a lot. So let's jump in and discuss the curriculum and what we did. So I actually have a really big stack here for him because he is kind of caught between levels. We are working hard to kind of play a little bit of catch up to get him so that he can be like level to level each year. I know that that's not really supposed to matter, but I don't love getting caught between levels. So that's why I'm going to have a lot to show you, but I'm going to give you my honest opinion of what I thought about some of these. So let's start with language arts. I'm not going to go into what he read this year. That will be a separate video because there's a lot. But let's go into the actual curriculum. So he started out the year, so he finished last year working on Good and the Beautiful level 4. And we didn't get super far. I think we started in February of last year. So we weren't super far into it, and I really wanted to get through it because I felt like as I was going through this grade really was very appropriate for 5th grade, but he had just finished 5th grade. And I didn't want to be spending most of our 6th grade year on this. I really wanted him to get into level 5. So over the summer, well, okay, backtrack. The way this level works is you actually have 2 books. This is your course book, and this is got your grammar, your geography, and your art in it. It is just a workbook style. Very simple. It walks you through all the grammar concepts. It teaches you about different geographical concepts. We've got some recipes and cooking. He really loved doing that. And then in this book, you have your spelling and writing. And so it went back and forth. You would have one day that was writing, and then the next day you would have spelling words, and so on and so forth. And you just flip-flop back and forth. So over the summer, I took out the spelling, and he would do 2 days a week that he would do 2 lessons in his course book, and then 1 of the writing workshops. And by pulling out the spelling so that we could do 2 lessons each day, we were able to get through a decent amount over the summer. And we were able to finish this course up end of October, I think, about this year. So that gave us plenty of time. Now, as to what we thought of this level, I really liked this level. I liked what I saw in terms of his writing starting to build on itself. But he did not love the layout. He didn't like having the 2 books to flip back and forth. I think it made it feel like there was more work than there really was, because there really wasn't that much work. The writing assignments are not super long and overwhelming, and they very much walk him through it step by step. But because I was handing him every day, I was going through, I would tell him which lessons he was doing, I would explain lessons, and then when I'm handing him 2 books instead of just 1, I think it made it feel a little overwhelming. And so because of that, he just did not love this at all. He didn't hate it, but he told me later he prefers kind of the more traditional. Knowing that feedback from him, next year my younger son is going to be in this level, it's given me an idea of how to approach it. I think I will approach it as 2 separate subjects. He will have his language arts subject, and he will go, I will give him the workbook, he'll go do the work, we'll discuss anything that needs to be discussed. And then we will, do some reading, something else that's kind of completely separate. and then I'll say, okay, now you have writing today, or now you have some spelling today. And I will approach it as two separate subjects. That way it seems hopefully a little less overwhelming. That being said, we have spent a good chunk of this year in our level 5 course book. And he likes this better. And again, this book is very much a workbook. Still beautiful, like the other. The geography and the water, he did pastels in level 4, and he really enjoyed that. We're doing watercolors with this, and we're really liking that as well. And it's all in here. The writing assignment is also worked in here. So this has some books actually written in here that he's reading. And then he'll have, for his writing assignments, he'll have a little box that gives him his writer's notebook assignment. And he has his little composition book, and he goes and works in it. And he also has longer writing assignments. He's written a couple of essays. Let's see, he just finished, he did an essay about optimism. He did an essay about the country of Ukraine. He has done a story, like creative fictional story. And he's about to write a short essay about Patagonia, I think is what I saw. So it very much still walks him through the steps, but it's definitely more than level 4 was, a little more on his own, a little more writing. For those, I allow him to type. He likes this better. I don't love the setup of this one. This is the old one. They just came out with a new one, and I haven't actually looked at it, but I wouldn't be surprised if my things that I didn't like are more addressed. So this just has a lot of moving parts. Every day he does his course book and whatever writing assignment and everything that's in here. He's supposed to study geography, which is a separate thing. He's supposed to study some poetry. That's a separate thing. He has an extra handbook that gives him information. He has a shared reader that he is supposed to do with me every day, and we're supposed to read it out loud. And he also has dictation he has to do every day. So there's a lot of moving parts, and it's a little bit overwhelming to try and remember. And they give us a checklist, but he already has a checklist to go with like all his other subjects. So I'm having to like write all those in and trying to remember just all the different parts and make sure he gets to all of them, even though, you know, some of them are only 5 minutes. You know, study your poetry for 5 minutes or study your geography for 5 minutes. It's still just a lot. And to be honest, the shared reader is the part that often gets dropped. He's a great reader. He doesn't love reading out loud. It takes some time. I have 2 other kids I'm doing school with, and that is the part that just oftentimes gets forgotten. And I'll remember at night as we're going to bed, I'll be like, we didn't do that again, and we'll get multiple days behind. And so I've had many times that I've had to just say, you know what, I need you to read, catch up. Once you're a couple of, 1 or 2 chapters behind, call me and we'll read that chapter together. So he's still getting some reading aloud time in, but it's not as consistent as it's supposed to be. So I'm hoping that maybe there aren't as many moving parts in the new level 5. But I do like where the writing is going. I was really concerned, and I did try to add in some extra writing this year because I was concerned that it wasn't building enough for him. But I addressed this last year. I felt like I put him in the wrong level last year when we started him in level 3 as a 5th grader. I really feel like he should have been in level 4. I don't think I really did the assessment correctly. And therefore, once I got him on level so that he was doing level 5 in 6th grade, this I feel like is very good and very much on level. I like where I see his writing going. I've looked ahead in level 6. I like where I see that writing going, and I don't feel like I need to add in a lot of extra right now. I feel like he's doing well. The one thing I don't like is, even though we do this shared reader and he has personal reading stuff to do in here and he has personal books he's reading, there's not a lot of literary analysis, I guess you could say. So that is something that I did address on my own, and I'll talk about that shortly. But overall, I do think The Good and the Beautiful is still a really good program. It's just a little bit of a learning curve as you move from level to level. I'm excited that my younger son is going to get to do the new level 5 and possibly even a new level 6 and 7. I don't know when those will be updated, but he's still got a couple years, so maybe any of those concerns about all the extras will get addressed. As for literature, like I said, that's a part that I felt was a little bit lacking. I feel like he needs to be diving a little deeper into the things he's reading. So we did 2 novel studies this year to get him used to doing them. So the first one we did at the very beginning of the year, we did The Golden Goblet from Progeny Press. So both of the novels I chose for his novel study coincided with his history. So we were in ancient Egypt to start with. We read The Golden Goblet and studied in depth. And I actually really enjoyed this Progeny Press. I liked that it made him actually stop and really look into the chapters he was reading. His answers were not always as in-depth as I as an adult would like, but this was his first time having to take the time to pause in his reading, go back in chapters that he'd already read to find answers. And so I thought he did well. It was good practice. I liked that it really pulled out a lot of vocabulary words for him to look at and make sure he really knew what they meant. I had him do like the simple like 1-sentence questions on his own, and you can see I didn't have him do everything because it was a little long and I didn't want this novel study to take the entire semester. So I would just go through and pick out the questions that I felt like weren't redundant or maybe weren't super easy. Some of them were just kind of like really surface questions, the ones that made him dig a little deeper. And then my personal favorite part was at the end, the parts that were for the dig deeper section. I actually did those with him. We would do those out loud, where we would use them as discussion questions instead of having him answer them, because I knew that he would just give me like a couple words for an answer, maybe a sentence, and this was something that was meant to be really dug into. We did not do any of the notebook projects really, because he did a project for this section in history as it was. So I really enjoyed Progeny Press. The other one we did was Sophia's War, which is an awesome book about the Revolutionary War and aspiring. We found a novel study guide through Teachers Pay Teachers. And I didn't think it was as good as Progeny Press, but it did the job of just making him pause, making him go back. He actually read way ahead before starting it and had to go back. And so it was a really easy read. And so we talked about the idea of rereading the chapters quickly to refamiliarize yourself before answering the questions. And so at first he was trying to just answer off memory, and we discussed why that wasn't a good idea because he was thinking of things that happened later in the book. He needed to figure out what this specific chapter was about. And so once he started doing that, like, it started going more smoothly. Again, it worked. It didn't work as much on vocabulary, and the questions weren't as deep, but it did get him to pause and think about the characters and how they grew and changed. So I did like that. But I did really enjoy this Progeny Press, and will probably use book studies from them in the future. Okay, on to math. Math, again, he's caught between 2 levels. So he started the year with Math 6-5. I think he started the year about halfway through. After taking most of the summer off, like we did some very basic things over the summer, but most of it was pretty free. And we came back, I found he had forgotten a lot of the stuff about fractions and decimals and things like that. And he was really struggling. His first test was like a 40%. So we paused and we spent about a month taking anything I could grab hold of to just deep dive into the basics of fractions and decimals and percentages and ratios and kind of all those things. So we had like a summer 4th grade workbook or 5th grade workbook that we had used from BrainQuest, and so I pulled out all the pages in there. We used the free lessons from The Good and the Beautiful level 5. They had their video lessons up, so I went through and just found all the ones that pertained specifically to that level, and he would watch those videos and do the worksheets. Same thing, we went on Easy Peasy and went into their grades 5 and 6 and found everything that pertained to that and used that. That went through Khan Academy. So he would watch those videos and then do the problems online. And that's where we discovered he enjoys being taught through a video, actually. And then once we got that kind of under control after an extra month, which obviously put us a little more behind than what I wanted, but I'd rather be a little behind than push him through the way he would have just been pushed through in public school. That's what happened. That's why he was behind as it was. So he finished this up finally in January, maybe early February. We finished 6-5, and we are now currently working our way through 7-6, and I am happy to say he's doing well. We've been able to fly through the beginning part because the beginning is always a review, but we did do all the chapters. I didn't skip any. We did them, just we would sometimes do more than one a day if it was something I knew he had down, but we did make sure to go through all of them. He's still not like a math genius. He's still, you can see like he kind of struggles to grasp the concept, but he is working his way through. He is making it. We are somewhere around, I don't know where we are, lesson 40. We will probably be about a third of the way through this book when we finish for the summer. And you know what? That's fine. I think we will probably spend most of next year on this. He is not an advanced math student, and that's fine. This level is meant for your kind of average 7th graders, advanced 6th graders. So I am probably going to slow down and let this be the majority of what he does in 7th grade. In fact, I am considering actually kind of rewinding to some of the things I know that he was kind of really struggling with getting down like super strong, and just spending this year on this review section and really solidifying that. So that's that. But I also always know I can't currently now go on to The Good and the Beautiful because we are past their level 5 and they don't have that. They don't have level 6 yet, and it wouldn't be free anyways because they only go free up to level 5. But I can always go to Easy Peasy, or I can always find workbooks that will give him some extra work and some extra practice. So math is going well, moving forward, definitely sticking with Saxon. Yeah. Okay. As for electives, because we will talk about group subjects in another video. As for his electives, this year he did health. So the first thing we used was this teen health. This is just a textbook, and I just had him read it, and then I would give him, at the end there were usually like 8 review questions, but I would usually pick out like the 2 or 3 that I really wanted him to do. Originally we started with writing all the vocabulary words. There were a lot of vocabulary words, so I decided that wasn't the best use of his time. So I wanted him to do more of the discussion questions. And then at the end of, there's an assessment at the end of every chapter. We jumped around in the chapter to go in kind of the order I wanted. I didn't just go straight through. And actually there's one chapter we did not do that I wasn't really concerned about. And it was fine, but it's just a textbook. There's nothing fun, fancy, or frilly, and I know that he learned from it. I know he learned some things, but I definitely think there are better ways to approach it out there in a homeschool setting. So I don't necessarily recommend this. I will not be using this for my upcoming 4th grader when it's time for me to put him through a health course. Kind of been looking around and think I know what I'm going to have him do, but it worked. It did the job, but I definitely won't use it again. One thing I did pair it with, and I do like this, and I will keep this for my boys, he may read it again himself, is I did pair it with the boys' body book. This just touches on kind of all the things that they need to know growing up. A little bit about hygiene, a little bit about their changing bodies, a little bit about how to stay safe, you know, some of the like mental health things that come as you're growing up, like how to feel, like what to do if you don't feel like you're fitting in, you know, what is, you know, depression, things like that. And so I really liked this because you can see it's kind of a little cartoony, very simple, very easy. I will definitely use this with my other boys. It is just very surface level, but it was really good to add into this. It just added another layer. So I went through and I would give him pages that corresponded to what he was reading in his health book to read with this, so that it was just adding a little bit more. So this is a good. The textbook, not so much. Okay, also for sign language, or for his elective, he did sign language. He wanted to do a language. I sign, so I figured let's work on that. So I got this workbook, and we didn't use it. Partially because I loaned it to my cousin. Her kids were going to do sign language with us. We were going to do it as a kind of group. We did it 1 week, and I let them borrow this. So we did the first lesson, and then I gave it to them, and then I didn't get it back until, because they stopped. Some stuff came up. We weren't ever able to get together. They stopped doing sign language with us, and they never gave us the book back. So we have only used one lesson. So that being said, I think we're going to do this over the summer. We have been using liveprint.com because my plan was to pair this with LivePrint. We've been doing LivePrint, but it took us a while to kind of figure out a good system, because I wanted to sit and do the lessons with him, but the lessons are kind of long, and I didn't necessarily have time to do that, and so we kept missing out on sign language, kind of like the whole shared reader thing. So eventually I would give him the lesson for the week, and he would watch it on his own. And then the next week I would go over all the review sentences and vocabulary with him to make sure he retained what he did. And then towards the end I actually found that they have quizzes online that he could take with each lesson, with each lesson. So technically I think we've only made it through 7 lessons on LivePrint, because each lesson will take us right now 3 weeks, and that's having it down to a good schedule. So that is something that's going to be continued through next year. This is going to be, I think, gone over during the summer so that we can retain, learn some more, then his lessons will go a little faster next year. And some of this will probably, hopefully, be in conjunction next year to go along with it. So sign language was fun. He's actually really enjoyed it, but so far, and the program is great, just our ability to figure out how to get it done hasn't been great. So that is definitely a work in progress. Now on to just a couple of little extras. I got each of my boys a gratitude journal, and this did not go super awesome. The way it's set up is that they're supposed to write one thing each day that they are thankful for. And we were able to keep that up for the first couple months, but then you can see it quickly slipped by the wayside. But we did try most weeks to do the question. There's a question of the week, and I like seeing those. So like this is, what is one thing in nature that inspires you? Draw it below. I believe this is his picture of a tornado. Maybe. We're not artists in this family. You know, what is something new you learned this week and how will it help you? He said there's a lizard that's like a snake with no legs. So apparently we were learning about reptiles then. So I enjoy going back and reading those. We have not gotten super far, maybe halfway. So we will continue to use this next year, probably again, only those questions of the week. It got just really redundant for them to try and do one thing each day, and felt very ungenuine, not genuine, because they were just like, I don't know, gotta write something. So I will stick with the questions, but not necessarily the list. Okay, I wanted him to do extra vocabulary because he is a great writer and I want to foster that. So we tried out vocabulary cartoons and I was really excited about this, but it didn't really do anything. Yeah, the way it works is it gives you 10 questions and they're paired with pictures to help you remember. And then after 10 questions, it gives you a little like review. But this is all it does. And then it never does anything to go back. So originally I gave him like a flip chart and he was supposed to write each word and then write the definition. But he like really hated doing that so much, especially because he was like already doing vocabulary in his Progeny Press stuff. So eventually we stopped that and I told him to just like study the words, and then the next week so 1 week he would study the words and then the next week he would do the review to see if he retained it, but I don't know how much he retained. You can see we've made it about halfway through. I would really like to continue this, but I just need to find a better way to use it and assess how much he's retaining. So for extra writing, we tried out spectrum writing. And I like it, but we did not stick with it. We only did a few pages before we just started feeling like it was redundant and he really just didn't really like it. But we may use this over the summer and work through it then, because I do think it has some really good stuff in it. It just wasn't something we actually needed without feeling like it was just straight up busy work this year. So I have it if I want to do something over the summer, but I'm not going to feel like I have to. And let's see. We also did typing with the Good and Beautiful. I don't have that here. We did not like that. It did not fit us. It was boring. My kids thought it was boring. I wasn't able to keep an eye on them. It was too easy for them to kind of like just continue chicken pecking. We did switch to typing.com for about the last month. They like it much better, and my son already feels like he's improving with that, whereas he never really felt like he was improving. So we only made it through not even half of level 1 typing with the Good and the Beautiful before I finally just kind of tossed it and said, you know what, this isn't working. Like, I could just tell it wasn't working. I mean, I was bored looking at it. So some people I know really love that like hard copy it off the page, but that just was not a good fit for me or my boys. And then lastly, we've got the Good and the Beautiful's level 4 handwriting. This is almost all cursive, not completely. There's some stuff that's not. He is not as into the art projects as like his brother is. He's really, but he doesn't hate doing this. Oops. So you can see here, there's cursive and there's this. He is starting to write, words in cursive. Okay, level 3 does mostly just letters in cursive. This is starting to look into words. We are still not done with this, but hopefully we'll finish it before next year, because I would like for him to continue. Even though he doesn't love it, I do think it helps him. So that is our curriculum. A lot of wins, but a lot of working through trying to figure out how to make some of those wins actually work for us. But a couple misses: our health, our typing, differing opinions on the 2 different levels of the Good and the Beautiful language arts. But we're working through, and overall I think we're headed in the right direction. And overall 6th grade went well, and I'm excited for 7th grade. I'm looking forward to it. So good luck in the rest of your year, and smooth sailing to us hopefully for the last 6 weeks.